whatever it takes. For love.
Janet was a very beautiful young girl in her 20s. She was the only daughter of her wealthy father, who owned a large construction business. She studied in London at a prestigious university, and regularly visited her father during the summer vacation. This summer she again was delighted to visit her father at her parents' home. Her father greeted her with great joy. He was a widower. And while his daughter was in London, he met a beautiful woman, and was close to tying his new life to her. As he met his daughter, and prepared a celebratory dinner in her honor, he introduced her to his bride-to-be as well. But for some reason his daughter did not like her. She began to suspect that women with impure motives could be hovering around her father, and that no one could replace her deeply beloved mother.
She's just tired,
the father told his beloved woman, trying to ease the tension. Janet slept a little from her trip and came to the family dinner. While she was enjoying her favorite dishes, she asked her father about the change in the interior of her house.
Papa, why did you change the curtains?
The curtains were very old, so we had to buy new ones. Susan picked them out.
What about my favorite couch in the living room by the window? Who was it bothering? Susan, too?
Janet went on to ask, with a great note of dissatisfaction.
The threads were getting frayed on it,
said Susan for her father.
Solid people sometimes come to the house, and we thought that.
And I thought,
Janet interrupted her,
that it would be better if you were in charge of your own house. You go back to your place tonight, and you change whatever you want.
My dear,
her father intervened.
I understand that you've had a long flight. You're tired, but I beg you to be polite. That's the first thing. The second thing, and most importantly, Susan doesn't have to go to her place at all. She lives in this house.
That's news to me,
Janet exclaimed, laughing and embarrassed at the same time and abruptly changing her tone of voice. The girl was clearly angry, threw the unfinished fruit on the table, and ran abruptly to her room, shouting that she had lost her appetite. She closed the door noisily and pushed a chair roughly on her way out. Susan was a woman of understanding and tact, contrary to the opinion held by Janet. Wanting to extinguish the conflict, she decided that it was necessary to leave the house for the time being. The father decided to talk to his daughter, hoping that he would be able to soften and clarify the situation.
Janet, I understand how you feel, but you can't act like this either. You know, ever since your mother died, I've been sure I wouldn't love anyone else like that. But Susan just breathed new life into me.
By the way, Mom,
Janet said in tears,
would never have been the one to start messing around in someone else's house. Mom was the most sensitive and the best. And your Susan, you never told me anything about her all the time. So you weren't really sure yourself, were you? And then today you put me on the spot like a little girl. What am I supposed to do? Die of joy and rush into her arms?
Janet told to her father and ran off to her room in tears. In the morning Janet awoke to a sharp sound. It turned out that the couriers had brought Daddy's new hobby, masterpieces of century-old art.
I'm just a novice collector, and this painting is worth a lot. I spent a lot of time negotiating its purchase. It is a favorite of Suzanne's, and she knows a lot about art, and she has fascinated me with it.
How wonderful it is to love art, especially for someone else's money,
Janet said sarcastically to her father, who hugged her tenderly.
Janet, of course I should have told you about our relationship earlier. I was wrong. I'm sorry. But this has nothing to do with Susan. Let's just forget it, and you'll talk to her in a different tone tonight.
I'm not going to talk to her at all.
Janet replied, walking away.
Especially not tonight. Me and the girls are going to a club tonight.
No club tonight.
Dad said emphatically.
I'm having a special party. There will be guests there, and your presence is a must.
What is the occasion of the party? The new hotel?
Janet asked.
Tonight you'll find out.
Okay.
Janet replied, elated, and went to meet her friends. At the stylish clothing store, where Janet was shopping for a new fashionable dress, she told them everything she thought about Daddy's new lady.
A snake is a snake. Crawled into Daddy's heart under the guise of an interior designer. The woman worked for his hotel chain. She worked her ass off, and that's what she did. You should have seen Daddy jumping all over her. Susan, she understands art so intricately. Well, she's already making her own arrangements in the house.
Well, Janet, it's like a Cinderella fairy tale. The evil stepmother showed up, huh? We've got to eat this up.
I just feel like she's about to take over our house. A moment and she will start saying, let's remodel, cut down the garden, tear down the porch.
Did she say that?
Her friends asked.
No, of course not. But anything is possible.
Oh, these old women 40 years old, very impudent. It is clear that this is their last chance. We are young and beautiful. We have everything ahead of us. Oh, I want champagne,
said her friend.
So do I, especially since my father is paying,
said Janet and went with them to an expensive restaurant. At the restaurant the girls emptied a whole bottle, after which Janet called the waitress again.
Can we have another bottle of champagne, please?
Another bottle? What a question.
Janet smiled at her.
Maybe two.
The two girlfriends laughed.
I'm sorry, I just thought.
Don't think.
Janet interrupted her.
It's not part of your job description. You just do what the guests ask. By the way, VIP guests,
Janet said, tapping her fist on the table.
So I'm carrying 2 bottles of champagne?
Girl, didn't I make myself clear?
Said Janet, as the young waitress was leaving.
How can they take such stupid chickens to a decent restaurant?
Janet said irritably.
You're really good at this, Jay,
said her friend.
You know it's better not to make me angry.
Janet replied.
By the way, Jay, have you fixed up a duke or a prince yet?
If only there were someone worth pecking at.
Janet replied.
It's either infantiles or nerdy old guys. They go home at 6 o'clock in the evening. One look at them and you won't want to get married.
You don't have to. Your daddy's generous. Live happily ever after.
At that moment the waitress brought champagne.
Well, let's finish our drink, and then we're off to the club. Tonight everyone must see my new dress,
said Janet. The waitress began to pour the champagne smoothly into her glass.
Well, come on.
Janet blurted out in a hurry, and for some reason she abruptly grabbed the bottle while it was still in the waiter's hands, and jerked it sharply toward herself. The bottle struck the wine glass and the wine tipped right into Janet's new dress. Shocked at what had happened, Janet lashed out at the poor girl in a fury.
What are you doing, you armless chicken?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to,
she murmured in horror.
but you yourself did it.
What a rude girl.
Said one of Janet's friends.
I did it myself,
Janet replied in shock.
so it was my fault, too? Where is the manager?
At the noise of the girl, the manager of the restaurant immediately came running.
Is this a decent restaurant or a hot dog stand?
Janet came up with an accusation.
I beg your pardon. Of course we'll pay for the dry cleaning.
Well, of course you will.
Janet replied with a cocky attitude.
This dinner, the champagne, will all be at the expense of our establishment. What more can I do for you?
The manager said, pleadingly.
Fire that waitress,
Said Janet with a cheeky grin.
Of course.
Replied the manager.
But that's not fair, she did it to herself. Everyone saw it.
The waitress cried, frightened in her defense. Janet went on the offensive.
Be careful in your recruitment, or next time it will be you who will be fired.
Janet said, putting a huge smile on her pretty face. The restaurant workers left.
What a bitch, she ruined the whole evening.
Said Janet angrily.
I pity the girl.
Said another friend.
You were really hard on her.
You've got to do a better job.
Janet muttered.
She ruined my whole night. Well, whatever. Let's go dance at Black Flamingo Club.
The girls left. The evening came. At a fancy party, Janet's father, along with Susan, was meeting with guests. He talked with his new young business partner, Mr. Stephen Walker, a young, promising elegant company executive. The young man was heartily congratulating Janet's father and his friend Susan on their purchase of a new vintage painting and their latest business achievement.
Don't be afraid to dream. Dreams come true. Congratulations, a priceless acquisition. And for you, Susan, I just don't have the words, they just don't exist in nature. You, Susan, have managed to do just a miracle. Mr. James showed me all your decorations, the hotels, the offices. Everything was done with great taste, flawlessly.
Thank you,
Said Susan.
but it wasn't easy to decorate the Randall Hotel. You know, I didn't want to create flashiness, I wanted a fairy tale.
My dear, you succeeded. The competitors are weeping.
Janet's father intervened in the conversation.
The Randall Hotel won the most prestigious professional award. And this picture
Father pointed to the picture he bought this morning.
will decorate the hall of our new hotel. Oh, by the way, has the place for it been chosen yet?
Don't worry, your picture will be presented in the best possible light.
Replied his new young partner, Mr. Walker.
Everything is perfect with you, as always.
Answered Janet's father, when suddenly their nice conversation was interrupted by a loud voice from the microphone. Janet, obviously drunk, appeared on the small podium and unceremoniously began to introduce everyone to her friends through a microphone. The situation was becoming very awkward. The young businessman immediately paid her his undivided attention. The girl was drunk and was acting too freely, as if some inner pain was pushing her. The father apologized, and quickly headed toward the stage. He began pleading with his daughter to behave appropriately.
Janet, stop it right now. This is an important meeting on an important occasion, not a disco. After dinner, we're going to announce my engagement to Susan.
The girl was in shock.
Engagement? Why drag it out then? Let's do it now.
Snapped the shocked girl. Mr. Walker watched intently, turning his gaze from her father to the pretty girl in the very beautiful dress that had already been dry cleaned. In his eyes flashed a spark of real interest for the young, unusually behaving, yet brightly attractive girl, a spark that had not formed into a real feeling, but clearly caused him to be very intrigued by her.
Well, what? Was my father lacking?
Janet continued her sarcastic monologue into the microphone.
That's amazing. Woman.
Janet poured out her bitterness, mocking the upcoming celebration.
Maybe we shouldn't have rushed into the engagement? The girl is obviously stressed.
Susan said anxiously and worriedly to the girl's father. Janet went on and on.
What was he missing? My daddy, a wonderful woman, came along, who not only understood this, but used it to her advantage. Why not? An enviable groom, 7 hotels around the world, a whole kingdom.
Janet continued to uncover the supposedly secret motives behind Susan's affair with her rich father.
I've raised a complete, selfish girl.
The embarrassed father complained to Susan. His regrets were interrupted by an optimistic Mr. Stephen Walker.
What a cheerful, hilarious daughter you have, Mr. James.
Yeah, she's a lot of fun. What am I supposed to do with her? Bring her up? It's too late.
And now, the dance.
Shouted into the microphone hilarious Janet. Suddenly she lost control after her long monologue and collapsed from the stage right into the tiny pool, located below the stage. That was the end of the gala event. The next morning, Janet had a serious conversation at her parents' house.
Good morning, daughter, or rather good afternoon. The entire social press is discussing your spectacular fall into the pond.
Great. Any publicity is the engine of commerce. It'll get you more clients.
I'm not so sure. We need to have a serious talk.
Well, Dad, not today. I've got a headache enough as it is, and here you are with your nonsense.
Ruining my engagement is nonsense to you?
Come on, what did I ruin? I just livened up a boring event. Let your Susan not dream that I will welcome her with open arms.
I'm not asking you to embrace her. You just have to respect her.
On what grounds?
Janet wondered.
On the grounds that Susan is a hard worker, unlike you. She has supported her mother and her sisters since she was 17. She has come all the way from the South and has done so much. And you?
Are you going to compare me to her?
How can you compare yourself to Susan? Susan's living on her wits and you're living on everything ready to go. She's working and you're spending. You're a grown person and you're acting like a naughty child. You use what I give you. And you won't live a day on your own.
The father said in a high-pitched voice, challenging his daughter. And then Janet got turned on.
I'll get along just fine without all of you, a day, a week, a year.
You'll starve to death. You won't even make a couple $100.
I'll make thousands bucks easy.
Janet shouted.
Well, that's great. And now get your things and get out of here. From now on, I don't want to see a bum in my house until you prove otherwise.
Janet was shocked as she looked at her father, but suddenly she said with anger,
All right, I'm leaving.
And quickly packed her suitcase with her things. So, running out of her parents' house, Janet walked up the road and began to hitch a ride, hoping that she would get a ride to where she intended to go. Several high-priced cars drove past her. Oddly enough, no one stopped. Suddenly an old shabby car that resembled an old-fashioned Fiat pulled up next to her.
Oh, not that, no!
Janet instinctively spoke to herself. Out of the car suddenly stepped a young unshaved man in a work shirt, and shouted,
Where are you going?
Thanks, nowhere.
Said Janet, not even turning her head in the direction of the driver. But the young man was not embarrassed, and continued.
I understand. You left your boyfriend or what?
What boyfriend?
Janet was astonished by such assertiveness, and added,
I don't give a shit about any of you.
Oh! That's exactly what my sister said. She's a cook, works in the village. What are you standing there for? Let's go!
He grabbed her suitcase to put it in his trunk.
Where are you taking my suitcase?
The girl tried to resist, grasping her suitcase.
Come on, I'll give you a ride.
The impudent young man continued, not intending to give up.
I'd rather walk myself.
Where are you going to walk in those heels?
The pushy man kept dragging the suitcase to the car.
I'll take you to the city, and then you do as you please.
With a feeling of squeamishness and disgust, Janet got into the old car offered to her. On the way, the driver banged hard on the front of the car a couple of times near the steering wheel, which made Janet ask,
Are you sure we're going to make it in it?
Don't worry, hottie.
I'm not a hottie to ya.
She snapped, and stared him right in the face.
Why are you looking at me like that? Do you think we know each other?
Do I know you? Of course not.
She said sneeringly.
Well, then let's get acquainted. I'm Stevie.
The boy introduced himself with passion and fervor.
Janet.
She answered in a dry and lifeless manner.
Don't worry, Janet. It's a nice car. I've been driving it for 5 years. Before me it was my cousin. He and I worked in a factory, and then he went to New York. And then I had to move. What are you gonna do? Fraser guys are out of favor. I guess you know that. So I do a little taxiing.
Janet listened to him without interest, looking away, wondering how this could have happened to her. Being in a car like this, and with a guy who was bouncing from village to town, renting apartments on the outskirts of town, and speaking the language of a country cowboy.
So where are we going?
Stevie got specific.
Downtown, and I'll show you from there.
Okay. And seriously, where are you coming from with that suitcase?
Can we stop talking, please?
Sure we can. And it's easy.
The guy answered. He banged his fist a couple more times on the front of the car, and they drove downtown. The car pulled up in front of the hotel. The national flags of 7 foreign countries fluttered near the main entrance. Janet tried to get out of the car, but the door was stuck. She had to wait for Stevie to open it.
Shall I wait for you?
He kindly asked. But Janet said nothing, and with a haughty expression and her usual self-confidence went straight to the receptionist inside the hall.
Good afternoon, Miss Janet.
Good afternoon, John, if you can call this afternoon good. John, I'm going to stay in your family room for a week, so please give me the keys.
I can't give you the keys. Your father forbade me to give you the keys. I've been instructed not to let you in the hotel.
Janet was shocked and furious.
Have you all lost your minds? Then I'll go to the competitors. You tell him that.
She went outside with her suitcase and got back into the awful car to Stevie, who was waiting for her. They pulled up in front of her father's competitor's hotel. Stevie again kindly pulled her large suitcase out of the trunk and asked,
Should I not wait for you again?
Janet answered nothing, and once again went inside the building with a haughty look. But after a couple of minutes she returned in despair to the old, trim car, where the young man was still waiting for her.
What happened? Is there no room at the hotel?
Stevie asked her.
I don't know what to do. Dad blocked all my cards. I don't even have money to eat anything now.
Come on, let's go. I'll feed you. My grandmother told me that a smart idea comes on a full stomach.
Said a caring man and shoved Janet's suitcase into the trunk while she tried to open the car door with her foot. They pulled up to a small coffee stand by the roadside where hot dogs were sold. Janet pulled out her iPhone and started calling her friends while Stevie bought some unpretentious fast food. He bought a couple of hot dogs and placed them on the counter in front of Janet. Accustomed to fine home cooking, a personal chef, Janet stared in horror at the country snack offered to her. But hunger was stronger than her habits and discouraging thoughts. She began chewing the food, and at the same time tried to call her girlfriends.
Well, did you got through to anybody?
No. Screw them. One girlfriend had gone to France with her parents. The other is out of reach all day. What kind of girlfriends are these? When you need them, they're always gone.
You only have 2 friends in this whole big city?
The rest of my friends are in England.
What are they doing there?
Studying at Oxford, like me.
Where?
Stevie asked again, as if he had heard a foreign language.
At Oxford.
The girl clarified.
I see.
Answered the young rural worker with the look of a man who knows all the prestigious universities.
So you go to them?
I can't. My return ticket is a month away. And I can't go home to my father.
What's wrong with him?
Everything is wrong with him. First of all, he decided to marry a horrible woman. Secondly, he and I bet money, or rather that I would earn it. I came to the paternal home for the vacations. Is it called that way?
Yeah, so that's how it is.
Stevie replied, munching on his hot dog. Janet put her iPhone on the counter next to the bottle of Coke so she could use both hands to eat a big snack. But suddenly a man who had been watching her from behind came up to her counter. He instantly grabbed her lying phone and ran off. Janet rushed after him, shouting,
Give me my phone!
But the man disappeared from view. A confused Stevie rushed after her to help her. In desperation, the girl turned on Stevie and pounced the guy with rage and fists, shouting,
It's all because of you. Because of your stupid car.
Janet shouted, slapping Stevie on the shoulder with bitterness.
If I hadn't gotten in it, none of this would have happened. Who am I going to call now, and where am I going to go?
Threw the angry girl in his face and rushed away, taking the suitcase with her. The boy shouted after her in shock.
What a bitch you are! I drove you around in my car, fed you hot dogs, and now I'm getting screwed for this, too.
Janet in frustration grabbed her suitcase and walked down the street in an unknown direction. Seeing this, Stevie got in the car, caught up with the discouraged girl, and told her kindly.
Come on, don't be mad. Get in the car.
Why are you sticking it to me? Don't you have your own things to do?
The girl answered, almost crying.
Get in the car!
Leave me alone.
My grandmother said that you should help a person in need, especially if that person is a woman. All the more so if that woman is with hot dogs in her hand,
said Stevie, softening his tone. Janet took her hot dog in her teeth to force open the jammed door with both hands, and with a cry of effort got into the car.
Okay, let's go to Nancy.
Who's that?
It's my last hope,
said the girl. But a close friend turned out to be a false hope. They drove up to the friend's house and rang her doorbell.
Nancy, honey, I thought you were taking a bath. I'm dreaming of a shower myself,
Janet said, trying to rush into her friend's apartment. But the latter stood in her way, like a security guard.
I'm sorry, Janet. Here's the thing.
You're not alone, are you?
Janet was surprised, and tried to look in through the hallway, but she was interrupted.
You see, I got the most unbelievable thing going on. He is an athlete, and he is handsome, and I met him 2 weeks ago.
And you two fell in love, I see.
Janet sadly and understandingly continued the explanation with her head down.
So, I'm sorry, I can't let you in right now.
Nancy said pleadingly. Janet sighed heavily, and asked.
But can I at least borrow some money? Like 5,000.
I don't have any cash right now. The money's all on the card, though wait, I'll be right back. Here, $200.
Nancy gladly handed out the money. But Janet turned irritably, and ran away toward the car, as if she'd been offered a piece of an under-eaten apple.
Janet! What in the world had happened?
Shouted after her surprised girlfriend.
How was it?
Stevie, still waiting in the car, asked her.
I guess today wasn't the best day of my life,
Well, it happens,
said Stevie sympathetically.
It sure happens, but I don't have a place to sleep tonight.
Do you want me to drive you back home? I will do it for free.
Back to Daddy's house? I'd rather die. I wish I could get at least a couple of hours of sleep. I'm so tired.
She almost cried.
Come on, let's go. There's a place around here.
Stevie said, and drove off in his old car. It was getting dark outside. They drove up to a house and crept quietly across the hall to a small room. Upon hearing the noise, the landlady came out into the hallway.
This is it. Here it comes. You promised that you would live here alone, and now you brought a girlfriend. That's the way you are now.
Calm down, woman.
Janet shouted.
That's not why we're here at all. You shouldn't judge others by yourself,
What a clever one showed up here.
said the landlady.
Mrs. Taylor, I beg your pardon. She's not my girlfriend, she's a cousin of mine who's come a long way. She's tired from the road, she just needs to stay here for a while until she can get a place to live. She's a normal girl. I'm sorry. Go to bed now, it's late.
The woman turned around and went into the other room.
Come into the room.
Stevie told Janet. They went into the room. The room was small and cramped for Janet. Steve read her mind and said,
My uncle helped me with this. It's small, but it's clean.
The girl kept looking around her in astonishment, as though this room was reminding her about something vital from her past life. Stevie came up behind her and deftly pulled the jacket off her shoulders. She jerked back in a little fear.
Don't be afraid, I'm not a maniac or a serial killer. I've been following you around for half a day, and I haven't killed you. Not even once. Although, I really wanted to. But my grandmother used to tell me.
I guess your grandmother used to say, it's always better to make decisions in the morning.
Janet interrupted him.
Exactly!
Stevie answered happily.
And she also said that people should help for no reason at all.
Stevie slowed his speech when he saw the exhausted girl lay down on the couch and immediately fell asleep. He quickly found a plaid in the closet and covered the sleeping girl. With almost paternal care he took off her shoes, as she instantly fell asleep without even taking her shoes off. When she awoke in the morning, she heard the sound of someone cooking in the kitchen. It was Stevie. He was expertly frying eggs.
Are you going to eat?
He suggested.
Well, if there's nothing else. Yeah.
I'm sorry I didn't have time to bake you some muffins, and I'm out of freshly squeezed mango juice.
He said with a smirk. He asked about her plans.
I'm going back to Oxford in a month, but in the meantime I'm going to find a job in my specialty.
What is your specialty?
History of European languages, deep classic English study, French, translations.
It's a very sought-after specialty,
said the guy jokingly.
Couldn't you have chosen something easier?
I inherited it from my mom. She liked to read French books in original. She liked to study Shakespeare.
Well, good luck with the job.
Stevie said, and quickly left in response to a phone call. But all that day Janet spent lying on her bed. When Stevie asked her in the evening how she was doing with her work, she said she was depressed and wasn't doing anything. Then she demanded to be fed.
Go to the kitchen and cook something for yourself.
He said coldly.
Why should I cook? I am your guest.
My grandmother used to say, a guest is only the first day. On the second day, a guest is a host.
What's your grievance against me?
Janet defended herself.
I have nothing against you. But if you're going to sit at home and do nothing, you can go back to your daddy. I'm not going to serve you. If you want to eat, go into the kitchen and cook for yourself, of course, if you know how to cook at all.
Said Stevie sternly.
Me? What's there to know? You'll have a 3-course meal tomorrow.
Do we have a deal?
He asked.
Yes, we have a deal.
Said the girl.
Alrighty then, tomorrow you'll have your lunch, and now get the cot in the corner, because that's where you'll sleep from now on.
The girl got over her shock, found an old folding bed in the corner, and closed the curtain in the corner of the room and went to sleep. In the morning she tried to cook a store-bought chicken, but that project failed. Her landlady had taught her how to make tobacco chicken, but the pan, with a weight on top, suddenly rattled to the floor. The chicken fell to the floor, too. Stevie came home at noon and shook his head and went to the store for fast food, telling Janet to clean up, to which she again reacted with protest and dissatisfaction. Then Janet took the job advertisement Stevie had placed in front of her and began calling potential employers.
Good afternoon. Do you need a personal secretary with French skills? What did you say?
What does my breast size have to do with it? Go to.
Janet hung up the phone. After a series of inadequate employers who didn't want employees, but rather mistresses on the job, Janet finally managed to make an appointment at the office of an advertising firm. They had a great job arrangement, and Janet headed out in the morning for her first day of work. As she entered the office building, she bumped into a young man in a bicycle tracksuit. He quickly gave her a commanding look and said,
"Well, why aren't we working? Sweetheart, make me a coffee, and then put all the mail on my table."
The girl, astonished at such insolence, quickly replied,
Who are you to give me orders? I'm actually a translator. I didn't study in London to make coffee for all those couriers like you are. Whatever you want, you make it.
Janet said firmly, but suddenly a young secretary approached them and addressed the cyclist as her boss. The cyclist turned out to be the CEO of the company.
Mr. Jones, I wanted to introduce to you this girl. This is the very girl who will work for us as an interpreter.
"You don't have to introduce her,"
said the angry boss.
"because she won't be working here."
The secretary looked at Janet with apologies in her eyes, not knowing what had happened, and shrugged her shoulders, saying there was nothing to be done. Janet walked away, without so needed job, though it almost was in her pocket. Walking down the street, Janet saw an advertisement in one of the Brandish clothing stores. She went in and started talking to the owner of the store. The owner called the saleswoman over and asked her to introduce her to the business. However, here, too, an even more curious situation occurred. A plump middle-aged lady entered the store. She wanted very much to buy an evening dress for the upcoming memorable evening.
"I want something bright and flamboyant,"
she said, pointing to a stylish wine-colored dress in the window display.
"The one that caught my eye was the color of
Wine-colored?
The saleswoman told her.
Yes, burgundy."
The boutique visitor said with anticipation.
But it's too tight for her.
Janet tried to insert her expertise in the matter.
Quiet.
Sharply interrupted and stopped her a saleswoman serving the customer, leaving Janet alone with her bewilderment.
Excuse me, madam. The girl is new here and is not yet familiar with our entire collection. This dress will suit you perfectly,
said the store attendant. Madam put on a burgundy stylish dress, approached the salesperson and asked,
"How about it?"
Excellent.
The salesgirl answered admiringly.
"I don't think the dress is the right length for me. I must have something shorter,"
said Madam, pulling up the bottom hem of the dress.
Don't worry, we have a very good dressmaker who will fix it for you in no time. But I would recommend you to put a bolero or scarf over your shoulders.
But Janet couldn't stand it.
What scarf? A scarf won't do any good. It's too small for you everywhere.
The salesgirl gestured.
Shut up, what are you doing?
But Janet was unstoppable, she cared more about the truth.
Look, it's all wrinkled, moved out. If I were you, I'd think 3 times before putting it on, because you look very vulgar in this dress.
Janet's words made the visitor turn as purple as the dress itself.
Who is that anyway? Who does she think she is?
Please excuse her, it's her first day on the job. You are very beautiful in this dress indeed, it's Milan, Paris.
Reassured the saleswoman.
And you, Janet, hurry up and find Madam a suitable scarf.
Said the saleswoman.
If a cooked sausage in a dress is Milan to Paris, then, of course. Yes.
Ironically threw a remark Janet, looking for a scarf for an unusual lady.
I don't intend to tolerate insults from some young showgirl.
The customer shouted, and left the store angrily, refusing to shop there.
How was your first day at work?
Asked a cheerful Stevie, coming home in the evening.
It couldn't have gone any better. If it wasn't for that fatso, everything would have been so great. And why do these fat women go to stylish stores anyway?
So you got a job in a clothing store, too? Cool.
Stevie said excitedly.
Now you have 2 jobs.
I don't have any job.
Yeah?
Stevie changed his tone abruptly.
You quit? Or you got kicked out?
No. It came out the way it did.
The girl said with regret.
You're no use. My grandmother would say. You can't cook, and you can't make money either. How long are you going to sit on my neck?
You're the one who brought me here, and I'm fine without your help or your grandmother. So get out of here,
said Janet.
Me?
Stevie asked.
You callous fool,
said Janet, and ran outside with the suitcase. It was already dark outside, and the guys standing around started shouting things at her.
Miss! Aren't you moving in with me? I'll forgive everything, and I'll take you in.
They were playing tricks on her.
Where are you going in the middle of the night?
Shouted Stevie as he caught up with her.
At Daddy's? He wouldn't respect you at all then. I was in a similar situation, but my grandmother. Anyway, you cannot give up at the first failure. You can't prove anything to anyone this way. Tomorrow will be a new day and a new job.
Who needs me?
She answered, almost crying.
I'll think of something. Let's go home.
Stevie began to encourage and persuade her. He took the suitcase and brought her home. The next morning they arrived at the local hawker market, where the fruit and vegetables were sold right by the roadside. Stevie asked the local vendor to hire Janet to sell his groceries on the street in his tent. There was nowhere else to go. Janet sat down at the tent and tried to sell something. It was hot and flies were flying. But she couldn't sell. With her rude and disappointed attitude she frightened away all the customers. Suddenly the landlady came up to her and began to teach her how to speak properly and politely to customers. And how to push her small business from the ground up. It really worked, and things began to change dramatically. Janet gradually began to take her eyes off herself and became genuinely interested in the lives of the ordinary people who came to her for vegetables. As they opened up, she was getting into their situation, shared her experience, and they gradually fell in love with her. The days were passing by. One evening, when she came home, she saw Stevie sick on the bed. He had a fever and was coughing. After taking his temperature, she began attending to him. Her landlady sent her to the store in the night to fetch milk to give the young man a drink, bring his fever down, and strengthen him, which Janet promptly did. She heated the milk and began to give him a drink and help him recover quickly. The trade went on. Janet began to show the poor and common visitors her special attention and warm cordial attitude. Everything around her began to change. Stevie himself suddenly recovered from the disease. Coming to the girl's tent, he offered to go together to the park, to somehow thank his young savior.
You want to take me for a walk? It's kind of surprising.
She replied with a smile. Stevie took her to the amusement park, took her on all kinds of rides.
I didn't think car chases or merry-go-rounds were cool for someone like you.
He invited her to sit next to him at a table in a coffee shop, and ordered 2 ice creams.
Well, they were cool.
She answered.
My parents and I used to go to parks like this all the time.
Janet replied good-naturedly.
And you thought I'd only been driving around with drivers my whole life, didn't you? The thing is, my dad used to be a simple builder, an engineer. And we lived in a small apartment building. But every year we went to the sea together. And there was a park just like here. But then everything became different.
The girl suddenly remembered her simple childhood and how everything had changed after her mother's death. Stevie sat across from her at the coffee table and stared intently into her eyes. It seemed to him that he was facing a completely different girl from the one he had picked up weeks before. Janet looked into his face with sincere, bright eyes, realizing that her inner change had a lot to do with him. But there was another mysterious something that was beginning to bother Stevie. What would happen if Janet found out the whole truth that she hadn't guessed? What would her attitude toward him become then? And he didn't want to lose the sympathy and even affection she was now so obviously showing for him. Janet became very pleasant to communicate with this simple and sincere, though at times direct and rude, young man, and even a simple ice cream shared with him seemed tastier than all the London and European dishes to which she had become accustomed in recent years. Stevie kept looking into her eyes for a moment, and then he leaned closer to her and said,
You know, you're different when you're not capricious and acting like a big deal.
So, what am I like?
Janet asked, still staring intently into his eyes.
Sweet, real, heartwarming. That's rare nowadays. Everyone pretends to be someone, hiding behind stupid masks.
Stevie said sadly, not hiding his admiration for the new Janet he saw.
Did your grandmother say that, too?
No, that came from me. You are very beautiful when you forget that you are a princess.
The girl looked very deeply into his eyes and replied,
And maybe it's because I was an enchanted princess, and you just slightly unenchanted me? Just like in a fairy tale.
The next morning, Stevie complimented her and offered to take her to the bazaar. The girl declined, saying that everything was close by. With a happy, bouncing walk, she went to her place of work. Stevie kept watching her for a long time, sighing. He had a lot on his mind. He got into his old car, and drove to the underground parking lot of the big company. There he walked to his fancy new car, got a file from it, and took the elevator up to the right floor. On exiting the elevator, his secretary was already waiting for him, holding his stylish suit in her hand on a hanger.
Mr. Walker, your suit is just as you requested, and the correspondence is on your desk. You are expected in the conference room.
Thank you.
He replied, and promised to be there in 5 minutes. Waiting for him in the conference room was Janet's father, Mr. James, his partner in the co-construction project.
How's our princess? She didn't need you?
The father asked.
No. As you can see, I'm fine. Besides, she's not a princess at all.
Really? Then who is she?
Janet's father wondered.
You won't believe it, but the princess has become Cinderella, sweet, kind, hardworking.
What are you saying?
The father wondered even more.
The neighbors really loved her. She's got lots of customers. And she knows how to take care of her neighbors.
Mr. Steve Walker continued to astonish the stunned father.
Are you sure you're talking about my daughter?
The father asked.
Yes.
Well, then we have to complete our experiment,
said Janet's father.
I wouldn't be in a hurry,
Stephen said.
We need one more round of tests to get the results established, so to speak.
I trust you completely. Then let's take care of our hotel,
said the astonished father. The next day Janet did her usual brisk trade, when suddenly a motorcyclist speeding into Janet's tray drove through her racks of fruit, leaving a mess in its wake.
You can't trust that girl with anything.
The owner of the stalls ran out screaming in despair.
Who's going to pay me for the goods?
When Stevie came home, Janet was sitting on the couch. The girl was sobbing. The landlady, who had come to comfort her, told him that the damage from the accident was more than a month's salary. And the owner was demanding that she pay damages.
I worked so hard, now I have to give it all away. Daddy will never believe I earned that much.
Janet answered tearfully. Stevie consoled her by telling that one of his acquaintances was looking for a waitress for an exclusive restaurant. That restaurant turned out to be the one where Janet had had an unpleasant scandal with the waitress because of spilled wine on her dress.
Oh, no, not that one,
she pleaded. The next day, Janet was in that very restaurant, dressed as a waitress. The very same girl who Janet had demanded to be fired approached her. Janet turned pale.
Don't worry so much. The first day is always nervous. The main thing is to write down everything correctly, and do not forget to specify the details, got it?
Courteously and kindly instructed Janet the girl who had once suffered from her. At the table across the hall sat Janet's two best girlfriends. She didn't know where to hide.
Thank you,
Janet said to the young waitress.
I'm so sorry about the scandal. Please forgive me my insolence.
Come on, it's all right.
Smiled the girl.
It's all forgotten.
The manager stopped their conversation, demanding to take over customer service. The young waitress also noticed Janet's two girlfriends. She realized the awkwardness of the situation and started serving Janet's friends, while Janet went to the other people at the table. They ordered oysters and expensive wine. Suddenly Janet heard a scandal breaking out at the table where her girlfriends were sitting. The two girls began accusing the young waitress of improper service, knocked over their drink glasses, and reminded her of the way she had spilled wine over Janet. The manager came over and they poured their accusations on the waitress, demanding that she finally be fired. Janet heard this, and immediately decided to defend the innocent girl, and took all the heat for it upon herself.
It wasn't her fault. I was walking by and accidentally bumped those glasses, so fire. Me,
Janet said. Her girlfriends saw her with surprise and suddenly broke into applause.
Congratulations, Janet. The prank was a success.
Their claps were joined by others. Janet didn't understand what was going on. Suddenly her father, the woman who owned the apartment, and Stevie, who had become so close to her, appeared from behind, only this time with his hair neatly combed and in a stylish suit.
Well, my dear daughter, let me introduce you to my partner, a witty and humorous man, Mr. Stephen Walker, by the way you know each other.
Janet was shocked. Her eyes widened. Thoughts flashed through her head.
Was all this sympathy, sincerity, and even romantic feelings lately with Stevie just an elaborate prank?
Stevie.
The young man she'd grown so fond of lately introduced himself to her.
Am I dreaming?
Janet asked in bewilderment.
I have something for you.
Steve continued.
It's your phone. As you understand, no one has stolen it. It is intact.
Stevie handed Janet her stolen phone and said,
Here you go.
Janet took her phone.
Here you go too,
she said, and suddenly slapped Stevie in the face, causing him to take off his glasses. At her father's house, Janet sat down to have dinner, and got into a conversation with the maid she loved who was preparing the family's meals.
Your father, just a bullying. To think of such a surprise.
The woman was surprised to learn that Janet made her own food and even cooked her own chicken from the supermarket.
I cooked it myself. What's there to cook? You can clean half the apartment while it's cooking.
So you cleaned your apartment too? How is that possible?
The stunned maid marveled.
It's not difficult, it's all the little things.
She thoughtfully replied.
I understand, Dad, of course, to test me, but what happened with the tent and the motorcyclist? He could have been softer on me. But here's Stevie, so artfully pretending, smiling, and all to show off for my father. What a partner.
Dad's long-awaited engagement party with Susan had finally happened. The guests assembled. Janet approached her father and his fiancée, and wished them a long and happy life from the bottom of her heart.
Here's my gift, a modest one, but I earned it myself.
It is not the gift that matters, but your attitude, and I appreciate it most of all,
said the happy father to his daughter.
Susan, I'm so sorry for all the things I said, and please forget it,
said Janet to Susan.
What's the big deal? The past is the past, the future is what's important. And the future will be great.
Susan laughed, hugging her warmly.
And the main thing is that you have hands and a head and a good heart, according to many people here,
said the father. Janet walked over to the celebration cake and took a portion for herself. Suddenly Stephen came up behind her.
Let me invite you to dance,
he said.
How brave are you, after all this time, knowing that I have a piece of cake in my hands?
I'm a gutsy person,
said Mr. Walker.
You know, I don't want to cause a scandal just because it's Dad's party and not mine. Otherwise, I'd throw you a fight,
Janet said.
Don't do it, just dance with me,
Mr. Walker insisted.
I see,
he said, seeing the girl's mute refusal.
How do you live? When are you going to England?
I'm fine. To England soon, but that's none of your business,
said the girl sharply.
And how are you? Did you get your promotion?
Asked the girl.
What promotion?
Stephen was perplexed.
Well, what were you and Dad arguing and betting on? A bonus? A raise? A percentage?
As a matter of fact, your dad is my partner, and we didn't argue about anything. I offered to help him myself. I just got tired of watching him suffer through his daughter's whims.
Sure, and I'll believe you. Living in a rented apartment on the outskirts of the city, making up stories about your grandmother. All that for the sake of selfless love for your partner, huh?
Janet said.
Not really. There's another reason too, and another circumstance.
Well, like I said.
Janet said, hoping she was about to expose Stephen.
What's that?
I liked you,
said Stephen, looking Janet squarely and honestly into the eyes.
Right when I saw you. And then I fell in love with you.
Well, you know. People in love don't act like that. They don't lie. Remember, you told me about the masks when you were just simple Stevie, not Mr. Walker the great businessman. And now Stevie isn't real himself.
The girl jumped up from the table and started to walk away.
So now, simple Stevie doesn't even have a chance?
The man asked.
Well, Stevie might have a chance, but Mr. Stephen Walker doesn't.
The girl has waved her hands in the air, as to say no, and left. A saddened Steve sat with his head down. Few days later, Janet was sitting in the same park where she'd had a romantic, wonderful time with Stevie, then as simple country laborer, eating an ice cream. Suddenly the same old car stopped abruptly beside her, out of which came again the same unshaved Stevie, wearing the same sweat-stained shirt, and walked abruptly to her table. The girl looked up in amazement and said,
Have you decided to switch from a career entrepreneur to a cheap actor now?
I decided to finally change the image.
Stevie answered.
Why?
Asked Janet.
Well, I figured since Mr. Walker didn't have a chance and Stevie did, I'd have to be Stevie. Get in the car,
he said in a commanding tone.
No way.
Janet replied.
Get in, Grandma's waiting.
Stevie said and abruptly grabbed the girl's hand and led her to the car.
What grandmother?
Janet exclaimed.
Are you lying again?
No, I'm not. My grandmother, Mrs. Clara Jennings, is waiting for us with pies in Springsteen Town and has been dreaming of meeting you for a long time.
What Springsteen Town you're talking about?
Janet answered, looking him into the eyes. But the tender, strong feelings that had come over her or awakened in her at the sight of the very Stevie who had helped so wonderfully transform her from princess to good Cinderella, took over her. Saying to Stevie subconsciously,
I haven't had enough Springsteen Town yet.
Janet threw herself into his arms and began kissing him with a passion. It seemed to go on forever. Then she walked with him hand in hand to his old car. They quickly got in the car and drove off to meet his real grandmother, on their way to real happiness. The end. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe, like and comment the video. Thank you very much.